Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Schwing dich auf zu deinem Gott, which translates to raise yourself up to your God. Apologies. This is a very fascinating chorale. This might be the most fascinating chorale that we've looked at so far, at least in recent memory. Very, very interesting in terms of what harmonically goes on, the way his modulation schemes, lots of different tidbits of harmonic intrigue throughout. It's a very active chorale in that way. Let's talk about it. So, one flat in the key signature, we start on D minor, we end on D major. I reckon we're in the key of D minor. However, our first cadence that we have is an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of C major, so we're looking for a point in which we modulate. We start off, like I said, with a D minor chord. We go to C, E, A, and A. Very interesting, this descending line where we don't get the C sharp. This is a minor 5 in first inversion. Then we have B flat, F, B flat, and D. That's a root position B flat major triad, which is 6 in the key of D minor. Then we have G, G, B flat, and E, 6 going to 2, 6, E diminished over G. We have the degree symbol there. Then we have A, C, A, and F. That is an F major triad, which in the key of D major is 3. It's in first inversion, and I think this is our modulation point to the key of C. At least this is where it sounds like it modulates to me, and F is 4 in the key of C as well. We then have B, D, G, and D, which is a G major triad in first inversion. That's 5, 6. And then we cadence on C major, C, C, G, and E, which is our tonic triad. So we have the makeup here of a pretty straightforward imperfect authentic cadence. Modulating via the 3 is kind of interesting. We do see this adjacent harmony from time to time where Bach will just ascend the scale numerically in order. But we see 6, 2, and we would expect that to go to 5, but he goes to 3 instead, which is, to be fair, very similar to 5 by 2 tones, but it just sounds like it modulates there. Okay, next we have a half cadence in the key of D minor. And here it was kind of hard to discern a modulation point. I think it happens in like a zone, somewhere in this vicinity here in the middle part of the phrase, but I'm going to explain why I chose where it modulated. So we have A, E, A, and C. That is a minor triad for root position, which is just a 6 chord, passing 7th in the bass. We then have F, F, A, and C, which is an F major triad in root position. That's 4. Passing tone in the bass, or more specifically a passing 7th, and then we also have a passing tone in the alto. Then we have D, A, F, and C, which in the key of C major is 2, 7, and honestly, the C suspended over the melody here is where it sounds like it modulates to me, and I know it might seem a little odd to modulate here because this D minor chord is functioning like a tonic, but we are seeing a 1-7 chord because of this C that's very firm in the melody. That's just what it sounds like to me. I guess you could say that it happens earlier. You could even make the argument that it happens later, but I think by the time we get B flat, we've already modulated. That's just what it sounds like to me. Immediately afterwards, we get D, F, F, and B flat, which is a B flat major chord in root in first inversion, so that would be 6, 6, and we have some passing tones and other non-chord tones going on in 3 of the 4 voices. We then go to B flat, F, D, and G. That is with a neighbor tone in the alto. That is G minor 7 over B flat. That is 4, 6, 5. And then we get some extension of that. We get E as well here, which I think is just an accented non-chord tone, or like a decorated anticipation to the half cadence, because we eventually just cadence on A major, which is 5 in the key of D minor. And this would be an example of a Phrygian half cadence because of the half step motion in the bass from the 6th of the scale to the 5 of the scale. Alright, now we have a very, very interesting melody. What I think we have going on here is a half cadence in the key of A minor, but really what's going on here is very bizarre, and we'll get to it when we get there, but all in all, it's a very fascinating phrase, because we have this ascending bass line here from F natural to B flat. So the fact that we have B flat in such close proximity to a half cadence in A minor, because we cadence on E major here, gives me Phrygian vibes. Okay, so we have F, A, and D. So I think we're still in the key of D minor at this point. That would be a 1-6 chord. Then we get F sharp in the bass. F sharp, D, A, and A, which is a first inversion D major triad. That would be 5-6 of 4, because D is the dominant of G and G is our 4. We have a passing 7th in the tenor. We then have G, B flat, G, and D with a passing 7th in the alto. That's our 4 chord in root position. And then we have G sharp, B natural, E, and E, which would be 5-6 of 5. E is the dominant of A, and A is our 5. And immediately afterwards, we get a very, very fascinating deceptive progression. Instead of going to 5, we have this C sharp here in the... we have an F natural in the melody and a C sharp here in the tenor, which we have all of the makings, very similar to the chorale we had yesterday. We have all of the makings of the 5 chord, right? A, C sharp, and A, but instead of E, he goes up to F, which changes the quality of the chord to 3, because an F triad is a 3 chord, and this just happens to be augmented. And that's a byproduct of harmonizing the minor scale with the leading tone. Then we have a passing tone in the melody, in the alto, and then we go to B flat. 3 does go to where we expect it to. 3 goes to 6. This is exactly like the progression we saw in yesterday's chorale. And I think this is our modulation point, this B flat here. And I know that's going to sound very, very strange because I don't think this is a cadence on 2 in the key of D minor. It sounds like this sounds like a dominant in the melody, and with the G sharp here, it just sounds too much like 5 in the key of A minor. So I think this is going to look weird. I think this is a Neapolitan chord, B flat, D, F, and D, which is a B flat major triad, and Neapolitan does want to go to 5, but we get some passing tones in the lower voices to stop or to interrupt the expected motion of the B flat going down to A and the D going up to E. So the voices don't move the way that we would expect, but I really think this is less of a Neapolitan chord and more of a flat 2. And I know they seem like they're the same thing, especially in this context. This is where you would expect to see them, but 5 would typically go to 1, which it does after the phrase. But you're going to see that this phrase is just as interesting as the previous. So first time I think I've seen a Neapolitan chord or that I've written N in any analyses of a Bach chorale. So it's kind of unusual that we see this. But I think, like I said, this B flat's really more so flat 2 of like an A Phrygian pitch collection rather than like a Neapolitan. But that's sort of me forcing my tonal lens on the analysis. Because this undoubtedly sounds like a half cadence in the key of A minor. Okay, moving ahead, we have another half cadence. Maybe even a perfect authentic cadence. No, this is a half cadence in the key of G minor, apologies. But this 5 chord does go where we expect it to. It does go to A minor. But here we have a very unusual chord progression. We have A minor going to A diminished over G. And A diminished over G in terms of A minor would be 7 of flat 2, because A is the leading tone to B flat. And because this is a half diminished chord, not a fully diminished chord, you can't really respell it because there's really only one spelling that fully that gives you the chord. There's only one instance in which this chord would exist. So I think this is just a direct modulation where he keeps the C in the melody, and then we just get some descending pitch material kind of like a G minor style. So we get G, E flat, A, and C, and I think in the key of G minor that's 2-4-2. It'd be an A minor 7 flat 5 in third inversion, and that goes where we expect it to F sharp, D, A, and C, which is a D7 chord in first inversion. That's 5-6, and that goes to G minor, G, D, G, and B flat, which is a tonic triad. We have some passing tones going on in 3 of the voices as well. Then we have E flat, D, B flat, and G. That is a E flat major 7 chord, so 6-7 in root position. And then we get E flat, A, C, and G. So happening here on this beat is another 5-4. No, another. That would be 2-4-3 actually. Because the E flat of the chord is the fifth, and the fifth of the chord would mean that it's in second inversion. This G is a chord tone, and then we cadence on 5. So we have 6-2-5 or 1-6-2-5. So this progression right here works really well in the key of G minor, but the fact that we don't have a smooth progression from A minor to G minor is interesting. And if you think of the 2 keys, G minor has 2 flats, A minor has no accidentals, so there's I don't think there is any common ground between the 2 keys. There's D minor and D major, which I guess you could use. G minor and G major, kind of a weaker modulation. C minor and C major. Yeah, there's not a lot of overlap, is there? Maybe not any overlap at all diatonically, so the fact that we have a direct modulation here makes sense because there is no real channel that connects both keys as keys that are adjacent to one another on the circle of fifths have. Okay, next we have another confusing cadence. I think all in all it is a half cadence in the key of D minor, but it also might be an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of A minor, where we have the Picardy third here in the melody. Bach's been doing some experimental things in this chorale. Why stop here? I think that we do get a direct modulation to D minor, though. We have this false relation between the D major we hear at the end of the phrase at the end of the first system, and then we have D minor here at the beginning of the second system. So I think this is just another direct modulation. Yeah. So I'm going to analyze this in the way that I think it, well, at least the way that I hear it before I offer my A minor analysis, because I think this section could be analyzed in A minor too. So we have D, C natural, B natural, which immediately says A minor to me, but then we get B flat here, which is kind of interesting. So passing seventh in the bass, we have B, D, G, and F. Depending on how you look at this, you might call this 7-6-5. That turns into 7-5-3 on the and of 2, but you might also call this 5-6-5 of 7. Wait, so I did something wrong here. Oh, right, this isn't 7-6-5. Apologies. This would be uppercase 4-6-5. And they basically both they basically both achieve the same thing. They go to C, C, G, and E, which is a 7 chord in root position with a passing seventh here. So ipso facto, they both articulate the same thing. It just depends on how you look at it. I think I don't know which analysis makes more sense. We see uppercase 4s fairly frequently in Bach, so in minor keys. So I don't know. I guess it just depends. They both go to 7. But they're basically the same thing. After this, we get A minor, A, C, A, and E. I think this C major chord, I would be tempted to call it 1, but because we have the B flat here in the bass, I don't think we've modulated yet. I think we modulate after the B flat. We have A, C, A, and E, which is a minor 5, and I think that is now our tonic in the key of A minor. I think the analysis would look better if we can call this 1, but the B flat just does not make me think that we've modulated yet. It's kind of weird. We would expect the B natural here and the B flat here, but Bach has his reasons, I suppose. Passing 7th on the bass, and then we get F sharp. Very interestingly, this is melodic minor in the key of A minor. So I'm actually just walking this back and realizing that if we called this in the key of D minor, I should continue my D minor analysis instead of analyzing it in A minor now and mixing it halfway through. We have F sharp, C, A, and D, which is 4, 6, 5, D7 over over F sharp. And then we have this B natural here. This A is a chord tone. Then we have G sharp, B, E, and E. We see this 4, 6, 5 to 5, 6 progression sometimes in Bach as well, which makes me think that we are in the key of, or we have 4, 6. This is if I was analyzing it in the key of A minor. I just realized. Sorry. Let me go ahead and walk my analysis back real quick. I'm getting confused by my notes. So if we were in the key of D minor, no, we have to have gone to the key of A minor here, I believe, and this has to have been an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of A minor, where we have the C sharp in the melody. It has to be that way. So in A minor, this D chord would be 4, 6, 5, or I guess the same way that this is a 4, 6, 5 chord in the key of D minor, this could be 5, 6, 5 of 7, but we know that it doesn't go there. It goes to E major, which is 5, 6, E major over G sharp. And then we cadence on A major, so that we get that Picardy third in the melody. This is definitely a very unusual cadence because of the fact that we get that Picardy third there, but it truly is imperfect authentic because of the experimentation that happens. But we've seen this 4, 6 going to 5 before, so it's kind of already sort of in the harmonic progression that we've seen. If you want to analyze this entire section in A minor, you might call this D minor chord a 4 chord. You might call this G major chord over B, or G7 over B, 7, 6, 5. And you might call this 3 chord 3. And then we go to 1. You might call this 3 chord with this B flat as well, 5 of 6. As opposed to 3 because of this B flat, because the B flat would be implying dominance. But all in all, this phrase is very fascinating. The B's are mixed. But that being said, the rest of the chorale sort of stays in the realm of D minor, so the modulations, though the very interesting modulations up until this point, are over, but we still get a lot of interesting harmonies. I think this A major chord is our pivot chord to D minor, though. And we've seen this before in Bach's music, where he will cadence on the minor or the major tonic in a minor key, and that will turn into the minor key. That will turn into the dominant of the next key we go to. After this, we have another deceptive cadence, just like the chorale we had yesterday, and be mindful of the fact that this chorale is also from the same cantata as the chorale we looked at yesterday. It's pretty unusual to see more than one chorale in a cantata, so the fact that we have not 2 but 3 in one cantata, we'll be looking at the third and final chorale from the work tomorrow, is pretty special. And I would expect to see similarities between the chorales. Here we have G, C sharp, E, and A. That would be an A7 chord over G, so that would just be a 5-4-2. No need to reanalyze, just change the figured bass. We get F, D, A, and D, or B flat, F, D, A, and B flat. So we have the makings of 5 going to 1, but instead we go to 6. We get a deceptive progression. It's 6, 6, 5. We then get E, E, G, and C sharp. That is C sharp diminished over E, which is 7, 6. We then have D, F, A, and D, which is a tonic triad in root position, D minor. We then have A, E, A, and D. This D, I think, is a 4-3 suspension or an accented non-chord tone over the bass, and really what's just being implied here is 5. And we get the resolution on the next beat with a delayed 7th in the alto And then we cadence not on D minor, but B flat, D, F, and D. Alright, looking ahead, we have a half cadence in the key of D minor, and notice how we have the G in the bass here. It's not a root position chord, it's a 7 chord in third inversion. And I don't think this is the first time we've seen that cadence. I think we've seen it once before. I don't remember the exact chorale, but this is very unusual. We then have A, C, A, and F, so that goes to a 3 chord. So we have like a transitive progression. 3 usually goes to 6, not the other way around. But then we get B natural going to C, and we start this a chromatically ascending bass line again from B up to D. So B, D, G, and F, that would be a 4, 6, 5 chord, right? We've seen this before. 4, 6, 5, 4, 6, 5. Or you might analyze this as 5, 6, 5 of 7, because C would be our flat 7. And I think that's actually where it goes. It does go to 7, but 4 also wants to go to 7 via the cycle of fifths. So it does go to a root position 7 chord. Passing tone in the alto, the tenor. And then we get C sharp, A, G, and E. 7 going to 5, 6, 5, A7 over C sharp. We see 7 go to 5 from time to time, but it's much more common for 7 to go to 1. So really just this idea of prolonging the tonic for another beat creates another angsty section of the chorale. This is a very moody, angsty chorale. It's like one of my favorite chorales, just sonically, it's really beautiful. Then we have D, A, F, and D, which is our tonic triad we've been looking for. We go to G, B flat, G, and E, which is an E diminished triad over G. That's 2, 6. And then we have, instead of going to A, he leaps up an octave in the bass to G, and we get G, A, E, and C sharp, which is 5, 4, 2. Alright, last cadence is a perfect authentic cadence in the key of D minor, so we get exactly what we expect. So 5, 4, 2 goes to where we expect F, D, F, and A. That's 1, 6, D minor over F. We then get E, D, F, and B flat, but this E is an accented non-chord tone, and this is actually just B flat over D, which is 6, 6. Then we have E, G, E, and C sharp. That is a C sharp diminished triad in first inversion, so that would be 7, 6. We've seen 6 going to 7 as well, if I'm not mistaken. 6 going to 7, yeah. So we have F, A, D, and D. It's typical for 7 chords to go to F in the bass, right? Especially when they have it here. It's in first inversion, so we go to a D minor triad in first inversion, neighbor tone in the tenor, and 2 passing tones in the alto and the bass. That spells E, B flat, G, B flat, E, and D. So that would be a 2, 6, 5 chord, and you know that Bach loves his 2, 6, 5 chords. And the reason why I've marked that in comparison to some of the other passing chords that have coincidentally been in the texture is because we're getting ready for the cadence, and because we have another suspension similar to the previous, to the phrase before the previous. We would expect 2, 6, 5 to precede 5 with this suspension in the bass. However, actually I just realized that's not the case. This is not a suspension. Apologies. This is A, F natural, and D. This is a 1, 6, 4 chord. Apologies. Neighbor tone, or very brief neighbor tone in the alto, and then we have 5 chord here, actually. So these are actually related. But still the 2, 6, 5 still remains, because 1, 6, 4, and 5 are still very similar to one another because of their bases. But yeah, we go to an A major triad, A, E, and C sharp, and then we cadence on D major, so uppercase 1, D, A, F sharp, and D. Yeah, this analysis was pretty tricky. I was sitting down for a while looking at this one. I think, all in all, probably the most one of the most, if not the most interesting harmonically involved chorale, really pushing tonal progressions to their limits. Really, a really expanded tonal vocabulary from Bach here. And the fact that we get, like mid-phrase direct modulations, not to say that this is like, the one and the only analysis. If you could find a way to, look at this, look at these chords a little differently and make it seem like a common chord, or analyze even later in the measure, that's totally valid too. But, towards the middle of the chorale, the analysis is definitely much more up for interpretation than not. So, yeah, lots to decompress about this chorale. Formally, it's also very interesting in comparison to the chorale we looked at yesterday, because this is a very even distribution of phrase material, right? We get basically 2-bar phrases each time. And yeah, each phrase is equal in length. He explores a bunch of different keys. He goes, he starts in D minor, he sees C major, A minor, G minor even, from A minor. So I think a lot of the harmonic intrigue comes from the order in which the keys are presented. The fact that he goes from A minor to G minor is very interesting. The fact that we get modality injected in here with the B flat and the G sharp, implying, like a Phrygian dominant sort of sound, is really cool. But on that note, I think I'll cap the chorale off for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.